Hi, Deepak. Hi,
Hello.
Poonacha. I'm so honored to be here with you both today, and I wanted to kick off our conversation with a few insights that I found while I was doing research for this session. And while we often associate generative AI with technical applications, there was a new study from the Harvard Business Review which found that the top use case for Gen AI among consumers today is actually companionship and therapy. That was followed by organizing my life and finding purpose. And to me, that indicates a profound shift in terms of how we're using AI more for self-realization, for healing and well-being, which of course is strong validation for the work that you both are doing. So I wanted to just start by having you both explain to us Deepak Chopra AI and cyberhuman AI and what prompted you to take the plunge into AI.
I'll do that. I can start. Maybe Deepak, you can add. First of all, how are you all doing? More importantly. Excellent. Great. Glad to be here. You guys enjoying Cannes? Yes. How many people actually use AI today? Perfect. So I think from an AI perspective, it's inevitable that AI is like the calculator, right? Or like the GPS, like using Google Maps. Because why, if you have Google Maps, why not use it? So I think when you look at the answer to your question, the reason why we're working on AI is one is Deepak's mission. Over 2 decades ago, he said, I want to reach 1 billion people for a more peaceful, just, sustainable, healthier, and joyful world. And that has been the mission of what we've been working towards. And you talk about meditation. Before, meditation used to be go meet the person face to face. We kind of took the meditation movement online, the Oprah and Chopra 21-day meditation. I think today people think of meditation as calm, headspace, insight timer. But before that, it was the Oprah and Chopra 21-day. There were CDs and DVDs. The goal for us has always been how do you democratize access to information and knowledge. So when you look at AI today, I think the number one thing we want to do is to democratize access to knowledge and information. The stat you mentioned is very interesting because when we started looking at AI is almost, I would say 6, 7 years ago. The silent pandemic we have today is the mental health pandemic. Every 40 seconds, we lose someone to suicide globally. In this 30-minute phone conversation, more than 35 people would have died, right? The second big thing we talk about, the Surgeon General of the United States, Vivek Murthy, basically said the loneliness is one of the biggest pandemics. New York, London, right? So 1 in 3 Americans suffers from loneliness. And I think it's equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So that is actually a loneliness pandemic and also a health pandemic. So our goal with AI is to see how AI can be that companion for you. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of been, Deepak's going to get into Deepak Chopra AI. One is, can AI be a companion? And can we have a trusted companion? So with Deepak Chopra AI, it's not just open AI, or it's not about, which is amazing, large language models, but can we create an AI which comes from a physician, a neuroendocrinologist who's focused on diabetes, lifestyle management, so that, and also being a leader in wellness. The second part, cyberhuman, the reason why we are focused on it is because our moonshot is to make disease optional. And I think when Dr. Chopra talks about illness, he says chronic low-grade inflammation is one of the biggest challenges the world faces, and that's the number one reason for disease. What if we can give people a lifestyle prescription, which I think Deepak will probably touch about later, that we wanted to give people a lifestyle prescription, not for the people who live in Santa Monica or New York or here in Cannes, but our goal is to democratize healthcare. A lot of women here, we talk about menopause and perimenopause. You know, most physicians don't understand it. So our goal is to use agentic AI to bring the world's top leaders who can come and look at what's going on at the woman. There's mental health, there's cognitive issues, there's skin issues, there's bone issues, there's overall biological regulation of hormones. So imagine we had an AI which had the best endocrinologist, the best musculoskeletal expert, the best mental health, which we do have now, to come together to optimize your life for peak living. And our tagline is the wisdom of age and the biology of youth. So it's not about reverse aging, which I know Brian Johnson talks about, let's not die, but ours is about let's live, let's be joyful. And that's really the essence of why we do what we do.
So there's a lot there, and I have a few follow-up questions, but the first one that comes to mind is you talked about the mental health crisis, the silent pandemic, and I understand the need for more, resources and access to healthcare for many people. How then, though, do you mitigate some of the ethical risks that come with AI through cyberhuman AI, for example? I imagine that many people who are turning to Deepak Chopra AI are probably in a pretty vulnerable state. Where is the moral and potentially even legal responsibility?
Deepak, you want to? I'll piggyback.
So, Deepak Chopra AI is not about disease. And some of the things he said, that's cyberhuman AI. And that is actually getting the best experts in the world, in their field, to do what in our medical institution is called a grand rounds. So, when any physician will know that in hospitals, when you have a very difficult patient, let's say you have a patient with a particular type of cancer, you can look up ChatGPT and it'll give you so much information, you don't even know what to do with it. But if you have, say, the world's experts, this person has Huntington's chorea. Is he or she a candidate for CRISPR or gene editing? Yes or no? 1% could be candidates. The rest, are they epigenetic? Okay, yes, they're epigenetic. Can we get the best team of people, not just the specialists, the psychologists, the psychotherapists, the generalists, the reproductive endocrinologists, because sometimes the best solutions come from collective creativity. So what we're doing with that project, the cyberhuman.ai, we're actually doing grand rounds on a huge scale. Nobody's going to object that we there have the digital twins of the best experts, and behind the scenes the best experts are there. Our suicide prevention campaign, how many?
Yeah, we had during the pandemic, we deployed people never alone. We had 15 million messages,
Wow.
5 million minutes of conversation, 4,800 suicidal ideations. And that's, once again, we took it down because we were not ready to do it. But answer, I think, to our platform is that from a tech perspective with Dr. Chopra's AI, it's based on his books, 95 plus books, thousands and hours of videos, his content, and we're starting from
Articles.
there. Articles and all of that. We're
40
starting
years.
from there. And I think this is a global conversation, I think, which we should all have, the ethics of AI, right? The reason is, do you want a few, I'm going to say Silicon Valley bros, I joke about it, building AI? Or do you want everybody here with diversity, women in the workforce, global, building AI, right? I think it's been way too long when I think innovation, especially in tech, what happened to the internet? It was 1991, 92. What's the number one traffic on the internet? Pornography. Mobile phone. What's the number one action on mobile phone? Addiction. AI. We are at the crossroads, and Dr. Chopra says, where we have the ability to creative freedom and really make the difference in the world, or I guess the other one is not looking that good.
So the distinction between that cyberhuman.ai, which is the parent company, and mine is, if you want, I can be your personal companion or friend that you can go on and say, Deepak, what do you think about this? But it has to be about health. It has to be about lifespan. It has to be about longevity. It has to be about the 11 pillars of well-being. How do I manage stress? How do I navigate my body as a field of awareness? How do I maximize mind-body coordination? How do I eat the best food? Are there supplements that pertain to me? What kind of exercise should I do based on my body type? And how do my relationships affect me? How do finances affect me? What is the connection between corporate well-being, social well-being, personal well-being, physical well-being, community well-being, and spiritual well-being? And so my AI is your personal friend. You can reflect on yourself. You can even pretend that it's your alter ego. So that's one. personal friend. Second is research guide, but only as it pertains not even to disease, to health, longevity. Disease, I'm letting Cyberhuman gather the best experts. But health, longevity, lifespan, 11 pillars of well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being. That's Deepak Chopra AI. It's not, I have Huntington's chorea, please help me. But that will be the other one.
So I have a very meta question for you,
Yeah.
because since you are the expert in health, well-being, spirituality, do you use Deepak Chopra AI? If you have a question on those things, do you turn to your AI twin?
I do only occasionally to validate that it's not making up something that I didn't say. Because large language models, if they don't have the answer, they will hallucinate. And ours is not a large language model. It's a small language model. So just make sure that it doesn't hallucinate, number one. And it's a RAG model, so if anything is irrelevant, say I wrote a book in 1985, and there's some things there that are irrelevant, the RAG model will delete that and update with current knowledge. So, when I wrote Quantum Healing, I was convinced that 95% of disease is epigenetic. There was no proof. Okay, now I updated that book recently and wrote a book called Quantum Body with 2 quantum physicists. So the RAG model will update that information because 30 years later we have all the science. But it's still not going to make up anything. Although I do believe that hallucinations are very useful. This right now, what you're seeing is a controlled hallucination. So hallucinations actually create our experience of reality and actually enhance our creativity. But you don't want a hallucination when you're wanting to improve your health.
So when you have gone on to make sure that it's not hallucinating or saying something inaccurate, have you found, or do you find that it is like you? Is it like human, Deepak? Are there similarities, differences?
Everyone here, just go on deepakchopra.ai, ask it a question, and see if the answer sounds like me right here.
Well, Deepak, I'm asking you this because yesterday I did just that. I went on Deepak Chopra AI, I asked it a question, which I think relates to Cannes Lions and creativity and the soul. And I'm going to ask you the same question now, and we're going to see if it compares, if you're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I asked was, is AI soulless? How would human Deepak respond to that?
AI actually doesn't have intentionality. It doesn't have what I would call understanding, and it doesn't have consciousness. And soul is subjective experience, so AI doesn't have subjective experience. It doesn't feel hungry. It doesn't have sexual urges. It doesn't fear death. If you have a soul, then you have access to subjective experience. So AI is, I would say, even generative AI, is not even intelligent. Okay, it's a database, it's an information base, it's a knowledge base, but it's not a wisdom base.
You want to hear what Deepak Chopra AI said? It's very similar. It sounds very much
every
the
time
same.
you ask me, I say something fresh.
So Deepak Chopra AI told me yesterday that AI in its current form operates on algorithms and data, but lacks self-awareness and subjective experience. It is, as we know, a product of human creation and thought, a tool that reflects the intentions and designs of its makers. In this way, AI does not possess a soul or the capacity for inner experience, but it can be a catalyst for our own exploration.
That's what I said just now,
Yeah.
right?
So thank God. If not, we
Word
would have
for
to go back
word.
to the drawing board. I also want to introduce my colleague, Cosmans here, who's working very closely with us on the AI side. And I think 3 women walked in who are, once again, Gabriella, who worked with us on Never Alone, Mental Health, and we have Yana and Melissa. So, welcome.
That's
Welcome.
our team, by the way.
Yeah.
It's outnumbered. We are learning.
So I wanted to continue a little bit more on this theme of creativity, since of course we are at Cannes Lions and it's something that's on everybody's mind. And one of the things I keep hearing in my conversations with brands and marketers is, with the rise of AI, they're struggling to figure out how they can remain authentic, how they can remain relevant through storytelling. Is there any advice that you would give to these brands that are working through this right now?
Shall I share?
The creativity steps.
So over the years, I have my own formula for creativity. People ask me, how did you write 95 books, okay? So I know a little bit about creativity. There's something called fundamental creativity, and there's something called innovation. So innovation is, your latest iPhone 16 or 17, I don't know what, as compared to iPhone 14. Innovation is the current Mercedes-Benz, but creativity was the first automobile. Creativity is the first light bulb, and then innovation is all the appliances that came with the discovery of electromagnetism. So I hope everybody knows that fundamental creativity is the first in the line. The rest are copycats. And now in my life, I've used the following methods for creativity. First step, intended outcome. So AI cannot give you what your outcome is. You have to decide. That's human. Second step is information gathering. AI will give you all the information as it pertains to your intended outcomes. Let's say, I want to reach 1 billion people with this product or this service. Okay? So give me the best. Who's talking about this, and what is the information you can give me? AI is great for that. Information analysis, AI is great for that. So first step, intended outcome, you have to do that. Information gathering, AI can help you better than you can. Information analysis, AI can do that better. Now the fourth step, which AI can't do, is incubation. Incubation means you take your attention away from everything you're doing and you proliferate in the wisdom of uncertainty. Because AI is an algorithm. It doesn't know how to be uncertain. Okay, so it's not going to give you fundamental creativity. It's going to give you innovation, not fundamental creativity. So if you are a Republican, then you go play golf to incubate, because that's mystery school for Republicans. If you're a yogi, you meditate. And if you're a naturalist, you go out in the wilderness. And that period is uncertain. You actually surrender to, and suddenly you will, or you go on a Vipassana retreat or a meditation retreat, and suddenly you'll see that all the things you thought were true were just algorithms. And in that proliferation of uncertainty comes a break in the algorithm, which we call the aha experience. Archimedes had it, okay? So Archimedes was told by the king, the then king, my crown, I want to know if it's made of gold or it's an alloy. And if you tell me the right answer, I'll give you so much money. If you give me the wrong answer, you'll be executed. So Archimedes gathered all the information, density, mass, volume. Then he dropped. Then he was sitting in a tub and he was having a good bath. And suddenly he got the idea, mass and volume. If you do that, the density, then you compare the density of the gold with the alloy. And he said, aha, Eureka. He ran through the streets of ancient Syracuse saying, Eureka, I found it. That Eureka moment cannot come from AI. Okay, so now once the Eureka moment comes, that's insight that leads to inspiration, not motivation. Inspiration means to be in spirit. Inspiration leads to implementation, experimentation, which leads to validation, and finally leads to incarnation, which is the death of the old paradigm and the birth of an absolutely new story, fundamental creativity. The first iPhone, the first Apple computer, the first automobile. So does AI have a role for marketing and creativity? Yes. Information gathering, information analysis. But after that, no.
But what about for those of us who feel like we don't have time to go out into nature? We may not even have time to take a long bath with like all
Then
of the increasing
celebrate
demands.
your last exit and ignore your previous exit and ignore your final exit, which is called death. So if at the moment of death you say, I had so many exits, but I was never had time to go into nature, I never had time to take a bath, you wasted your life. If you don't have joy, then no exit means anything.
I wanted to move on and talk a little bit about monetization, because you've also come up with a very creative way of providing access to cyberhuman AI and Deepak Chopra AI. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you get 3 questions free. And after that, you're prompted to either subscribe or pay as you go. Why did you choose this model?
I'll kind of step back. So one of the things when you looked at it, the first statement I said, the goal of everything we do is to democratize access. It's not like, even when you think about it, you might think $2 a month is fine, but maybe not. Maybe it's 50 cents. Maybe it's 10 cents. So who are we to set these thresholds when people can't afford? So the first thing we said, let us come up with ways. So somebody in India, somebody in Africa and Kenya, anywhere in the world can use it. Maybe they don't use it for the entire month. Maybe they just have one question. So we kind of implemented a time-based model, like a Wi-Fi. I want to use it for an hour. I want to use it for a week. If I like it, I'll use it for a month. And if I like it for a month, I'll subscribe. So we partnered with SuperTab, which is a technology company with Cosmin founded. And we said, let's kind of maybe bring this model of pricing. So it's almost like pay as you go, right? So even if you look at OpenAI, yes, it's free, but then the paid aspect is actually not affordable to a lot of people. And when it comes to health and wellness, people who need it the most can't afford to pay for it, right? So we basically said, what do we need to operate the platform? And what do we need to cover our costs? Because you can't do economic good if you don't financially not viable. To do social good, you got to be economically viable. So we are trying to, it's not perfect. We're working through it over the last 6 months, almost a year. We're trying to figure out how do we meet people where they are. So if I am right now in Bangalore, the Silicon Valley of India, I know I just went to the doctor and the doctor gave me a diagnosis of diabetes and I'm really having a question, I'm really stressed. I just want to a meditation. I just go to Deepak and say, Deepak, just help me with a meditation. Maybe that's good enough. And all I need is that one question, I'm done. I don't think we need to force people into a subscription or force people to buy into, lock into anything. I think choice is very important. Freedom is very important. So I think our goal is to make it accessible by all. And this is a model which we are implementing into our strategy across the board.
And you say you don't need to force people into a subscription, which I think is great, and I completely agree, because you're right, $1 may not be a lot to me, but it could be a lot to somebody else. Can I share the stat that you just shared with me before? So you're not forcing people, but there is clearly a lot of interest in subscribing, because in the past 3 months, 20% of people who hit the paywall were interested then in buying or subscribing. So clearly this is something that people want more of.
Also, I think it's value-based, right? So I think to build trust, you give some, you win some, you give some. So I think our goal is to earn your respect, earn the value, and then I think you will, and human beings inherently are good. So that's why you say open a tab, inherently good, and then we'll see how that builds up. But yes, the numbers show that when you actually offer value, then you will subscribe.
Are there any ways that you've thought of that you could participate with brands through this?
So we are working on something. In fact, we just announced a collaboration with Augustinus Bader, which is, how many people know about Augustinus Bader Biotech? So one of the things, the Augustina is a brand, and Gabriella is a good friend of the founders, was they want to move from beyond just being a skincare, hair care company to a lifestyle company. Because beauty, bio is inside-out job, not outside in. So the Augustinus Bader and Dr. Chopra got together to create something called the House of Epigenetics. And the goal over here is to kind of create this lifestyle brand. So that's one example how we're working with a very tight collaboration with brands.
Because brain health, skin health, and gut health correlate with each other. Anyway, go ahead.
And then the second part of it is what we're working on is kind of doing this thing of a sponsor tab, where, let's say I'm working with, let's say in Atlanta, and Arthur Blank, who is the founder of Home Depot, is very passionate about Atlanta. And maybe he'll say, for the city of Atlanta, Home Depot will sponsor the mental health. Anybody who wants to use Deepak Chopra AI, I want to kind of sponsor it. So we will work with brands selectively who are aligned with the ethos of us, and there'll be a sponsor tab. So I think there are ways we are now looking at different brands who are aligned with us to kind of enable for their respective communities to integrate. I think it also creates clear value.
Absolutely. So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I could keep talking to you both forever, but I do want to open it up to the audience in case anyone else has questions for Deepak or Poonacha. So I'll turn it over to you. Don't be shy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for that. You mentioned loneliness is an epidemic, and it sounds like your potential solution for this epidemic is to give everyone an AI friend. Let you respond.
Let him finish.
My question is, could AI not be better used to help foster true relationships between actual humans rather than making them rely on, albeit very well trusted or researched AI person? Should it not be used to build real connections with people so they can be more meaningful?
Okay, so I'll answer it first, you answer.
I'll say.
In India, there's a concept called Sangha. There's actually a bigger concept called Satsanga. Sangha means community. Satsanga means community looking for the truth. They don't have the truth. They haven't found it. Because if they found it, then I would run away from them. I seek the company of those who are looking for the truth and run away from those who have found it. Satsanga is a gathering of people and a community that is maximized efficiency is attention, deep listening, affection, deep caring, appreciation, noticing everyone's unique strengths, and acceptance, radical acceptance of everybody as they are. So, as part of our program, we created something called Never Alone. Again, Gabriella was in charge of that. And we are creating online and offline communities. So you can have an online Sangha in New York, but you can also say, every Saturday, we'll meet at such and such place and share with each other with those principles: attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance.
Yes, so I think very important point. So there is the goal of AI, artificial intelligence, we believe, is to augment human intelligence, to innately enable your own natural intelligence. You have it in you. We have forgotten it, right? But now let me go back to a city like Bangalore, which I come from in India. It's called the Silicon Valley of India. 15 million residents. There is absolutely no therapist. You just cannot even get one. So in countries where you do not have access to resources, that could be a way to do it. The second use case I want to use is a very personal use case. During the pandemic, my son, who is now 20, is doing really well. He's in Wisconsin-Madison, amazing kid. Went through his own challenges. They were on gaming platforms. And guess what? It was an amazing platform. Thank God for gaming platform, which helped him. But we were not even addressing and talking to those. And when you listen to gaming platforms, they're speaking on the phone, right? On the microphones. Your pitch and standard deviation of your voice is called the valence of your voice, can pick up stress and anxiety. I think those are things where we can use AI. Because today days can go by and nobody knows what's happening to you. And I think if you can, when you go to a therapist, what happens? They talk about relationship. They watch your breath. They look at your pupil dilation. They look at whether you're sweating or not. They look at your movement. You can, in fact, if you were sitting in my village in India, you don't have to do any of this. If you say, you're looking like shit, let's go have a beer, right? But today, we live in a world where unfortunately, the cell phone knows you better than most people does. The way you type is actually a number one predictor of stress. Rosalind Picard's lab at MIT Media Labs looks at typing rates. So I think we have to be very conscious of AI I think Shira is in the crowd. I think she's also championing AI. I think we are at a very important crossroad in human history where we need to look at tech for good, AI for humanity, and how do you make it accessible? So, but once again, it's a responsibility. Like Deepak always says, a knife in the hands of a surgeon can save lives. The knife in the hands of somebody can kill. How do we choose to use technology in this group?
I think we can take one more quick question if there is one, and then, yep.
I was reconnecting with what has been said with innovation and creativity at the core. Do you think we need to rethink schooling, even very early days, since kindergarten? Because it seems to me, I live in the US, unfortunately, and but I'm Italian, a son of the Renaissance, and I see that hyper-specialization is very corrosive, very early days. So kids are basically born creative and born crazy and born adapt to create connections that are very not real.
Okay.
But then we teach them very early to be specialists, and then if AI is already the library and the ultimate source of know-how and knowledge and historical knowledge, where is the creativity part if it's not trained?
Okay, so here's the research on this. In the first 5 years of life, your personality is shaped. First 5 years, by your parents, by your brothers and sisters, by your schoolmates, and by the ecosystem, economic and otherwise, your personality is shaped. When a child is born, it has no language, but it looks at its mother. And what does it look at its mother? Eyes. Is the eyes showing love or not? Looks at her face. Is she smiling? Does she care or not? Hears the tone of her voice. Looks at her body language. Looks at her gestures. And what is looking for? Attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. That child will grow up to be a healthy child. If the child is ignored or doesn't have what we call healthy attachment, insecurity, because it's being ignored or doesn't get the right amount of attention, then it'll be dysfunctional, which is not that bad. In the US, you can run for office.
All right. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today. But
Thank
what
you.
a fun note to end on.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.